Hi, it's Wayne O'Keefe and I'm fishing the Barwon River in Barwon Heads. It's a beautiful morning, slightly overcast, bit of a breeze. The tide will be coming in soon, so the conditions are really good. What I usually do when I get here is I'll basically, before I even mix up my burley and everything, I'll just set up my gear, cast in two different spots, one close in, one further out, just to see if I can find where the fish are biting, and then I start preparing all my burley and getting that ready. What that means is that if I start to get bites while I'm preparing, I know that the fish might be further out or closer, and it just gives me an indication of where to target once I'm set up. So I get my burley set up, and then I can then start fishing in hit mode, in trying to catch those fish. I got down late last night actually, and so I was looking for somewhere to eat at the end of the day, and just went down to the main road and went into Hanoi Kitchen Restaurant. Beautiful food, and I had a Ben there that was fantastic, so really enjoyed that. Anyway, it's a great place to be. Shops and things like that around here, but the best thing is this river here, full of all the types of fish that you can get out in the ocean, really. And I hear, Ben tells me, that there's some big mulloway in here. So those mulloway anglers, yeah, if you want to sort of set your rigs up properly, use the right baits, and probably fish the evenings, this is where you might get it. Now, to start with, there's been a lot of small fish, so I'm getting lots of bites, but it's taking a lot of my bait. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a smaller hook on one of the rods. I'll put the prawn tail, a hard prawn tail with the shell on the heavier rod, and hoping that the shell will dissuade the smaller fish from coming in, or at least taking it. And on the other rod, I'm going to put a much smaller hook on. I think I was on a size 8, I'm going to go down to something like a size 14, I think, just to see, because I know it's probably little mullet, just to see if I can catch some of those. And on the bigger rod, since I know there's mulloway here, potentially I could cast out a live bait, but probably not the right time to do that. But if there might have been something like some big pinkies in here, something like that, they might take it. We'll see. But you know, there's always a chance of mixing things up a little bit. You see this little guy diving under, swimming around. Oh, look at that. Wow, moving around under there. Well, I've just cast in, and now I've got to hold the rod because these small fish are coming in. They're just taking so much bait. I've got the fish in the area, very good. Can I catch them? Not necessarily. Now, that was just cast in, it's just landed, and I'm starting to get bites now, which I can feel. So you've really got to hold the rod. I've gone down to a smaller hook, and I've actually trimmed the bait around the hook. So it's just a little blob of bait that one of those smaller mullet could actually swallow. And that's the only way I'm going to get one in, is to actually have the bait modified for the mouth of the fish that I'm trying to catch. So what I did is I've just put it on the hook, so it just follows around the bend of the hook. The point is exposed, and I've trimmed everything else off, so there's only that little tiny piece of bait there. That gives me the best chance of getting that fish. Now, when you get bites from a fish and you've missed it and you take it in and your bait has been mauled, normally I would say that you should replace that bait, put a fresh one on, much more palatable to the fish. But if you're using my spicy chicken formula, and you can get that on my website, what that does is if you bring in a mauled bait, you can just dip it back into the juices, and that way it sort of refreshes. And missing them all the time. It refreshes and allows you to present that bait again. And that's exactly what I did this time here, and I just missed that fish. Okay, this one I think I've got. Let's see if I can get it in. Haven't been successful so far. Okay, little trevally, okay, and that's what's really been enjoying it, but hook size, 14. Yeah, I'll put this guy back and see if we can get something, hopefully a bit bigger. Well, I got another one, but this is the first one today that's actually hooked itself. Surprisingly. And it was a mullet, which I didn't expect. Normally they don't commit suicide like that, so, well, my lucky day, his unlucky day. Now I know a lot of people say, well, I can't be bothered catching small fish. And look, I prefer to catch the big ones, but overall I prefer to catch fish if I go fishing. And sometimes, I've said this many times before, sometimes there are only small fish about. So if you want to have a bit of fun, you've just got to work out how to catch those, because you may never have the chance to get that big one and you have to go home without having any excitement at all. So using these techniques of moving down on the hook size, smaller baits, trimming your baits, using the right baits, holding the rod, using a good graphite rod to actually feel everything, those are the things will get those fish in. Okay, into another one, not another big one, but it is fighting like a trevally, maybe more than a mullet. We'll see what I've got. Okay, bad call on my part. It's another mullet. Yeah, just shows you how much I know about fish. Anyway, they're improving in size, so I'll keep going with this, but this is all on the smaller hooks and bait. And look, what I'll hope to do is, if I can improve on size, I'll move up on hook size, especially if the bigger fish are coming in, attracted by all the burley. Because getting those little fish in first is what will often attract the big fish, and therefore you can move up and hopefully target those. I've got something on the bigger rod. And it's a Tommy Rough. Now, this is quite a big hook, and I had the prawn tail on that, and he has scoffed that down. So it just shows you, sometimes the big hooks catch. Interesting. Well, the fishing slowed down a little bit, and I know it's really slowed down when you start to catch these things. Little toadfish or a puffer. Definitely do not eat these things, they are poisonous, but look, always return them because they're a part of the ecosystem in the water. So even though people consider them a nuisance fish, or rubbish as they call them, they are part of the system, so please always return these. And this has actually swallowed the hook completely, so what I'll do is I'll cut that line, put it out, and put a new hook on. Well, this is a little head shaker, so it's probably a Tommy Rough or something. It's the small fish, but still. Oh no. No, it's not a Tommy Rough. Oh my goodness. I have no idea about fish. It's another mullet. Anyway, at least it's a bit of fun catching them, even if I don't know what they're going to be. Now this should be a slightly better fish. It feels like it's fighting heavier, but you just never know. And I can't pick what it's going to be. Okay, yeah, this was a fairly decent mullet. So, okay, it was a better fish. Not bad, hey? So, spicy chicken, it's working. Good fish. This one I might take home. Now, the last fish I caught was a good sized mullet, but you can still catch those on small hooks and small bait if you use your burley. If I wasn't using burley, when you think about it, I've got a tiny little bait out there that is mixed in with all of that water. So the fish have got to find that. But if I've got burley going in all the time, it's going to attract everything. So what is really attracting those fish is the burley, and then they're finding the bait, rather than relying just on a little bait with all of that water. So I've got my advertising out there, which is my burley, and then the gift, the free steak knives if you like, is the bait. So it's worth using that burley to get those fish in, and you can catch those bigger fish even on the smaller gear if you attract them in. Okay, so another reasonable mullet that I've just caught then, and look, these are coming in fast and furious on the chicken, so it's working well. And I'll keep this up for as long as I've got. I don't have a lot more time yet left now, but this has been great fun.